No, I missed the 3D intro. Oh, hello everybody. Welcome to the Interesting Modelling Company Sunday service. And yes, it's very cold here in the workshop tonight, hence why I've got my gilet on and my baseball cap. Anyway, we have the usual parade of misfits here in the studio, but we have a special guest tonight as well. I know. Well, misfits, I've upgraded you three, so
There's any need for it, really, is there? But
no, there isn't. No.
Rude.
No.
Rude.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, absolutely. So, in no particular order, we'll go clockwise. Drew, how are you doing?
all right, yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Better than I was last week. Put it that way.
Good. What have you been up to in the workshop?
Well, it's still
Oh,
got a coat of black on the F-35C because we're ready to start. I've been doing it, building it bits and bobs here and there. So I've done things like I've done the initial paint on things like the tail planes to try and get that have glass effect that I want. I think I've really managed to get a good effect now, so I'm quite happy with that. So
do you want to talk people through what paint you used and how you did that?
Right. So the first thing is I'll actually show you with examples. How about that?
Ah.
So first thing is Mr. Surf's F-1500.
Yep.
Overall, and then polished with some wet sanded with a bit of Trizax just to smooth it off to get a very, very smooth finish. So that's stage one. I'm trying to work out. There you go. So that's stage one. And then stage two is giving it a coat over the top of that of SM203 Super Iron 2 with a bit of black in it just to darken it down, just to get a very shiny metallic finish like that. And then the Tamiya mix of 36170, which I have to use because I haven't got the paint for it yet, the actual paint, and misting it over the top to give this kind of grey effect over the top. Which if you catch it, it goes grey in certain lights and looks very metallic in others, which is exactly what I've been hunting for quite a long time. So
yeah, it has that weird kind of slight gold tinge to it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But
the main thing is you catch it in the light and it's very, very metallic. Like especially like these aircraft were on this deployment, so I've been doing things like slowly getting that done. And then we can start adding the bits of tapes and stuff to it and other things. So yeah, it's kind of creeping along, shall we say, because it's an awfully involved build. So, but we're starting to get there. So yeah, that's what I'm up to.
Nice.
Ian, what have you been up to?
I made a start on this, which is playing 1/9 scale of racing BMW HB4 race bike.
Is that the main kit?
It is. It's 9th scale, so it's a nice substantial piece of kit. So I started on it, and my build process. I build a little bit like Spencer. I build sub-assemblies, prep, but putting it all together at the end. Oops. The problem I have is that I realized after a few hours that the kit is actually compromised around the assembly sequence. So there's, let me just show you. So on the, for instance, this is the trailing arm. So there were some substantial axle pieces on here, which meant that to mount the wheel to the bike, you literally had to trap the wheel between the two halves of this There's a mold line around the middle.
And nobody wants to do that.
Well, yeah, nobody wants to do that because, to be honest, it didn't fit together that nicely. And you'd have ended, and plus this thing is a nice shiny silver metallic finish. And there's weld seams and stuff which are missing. They've got beautiful thing, because don't get me wrong, there's a liner for this. This is a two-piece on each side, so that there's no hollow areas where there shouldn't be hollow areas and that kind of stuff. So I decided it was a really smart idea, and hindsight thing, isn't it? To try and do something I do with 12-scale bikes. A lot of 12-scale bike builders do, which is make it screw or axle, or so replacing bits with like some metal pipe or tube or rod. So to illustrate, this is the frame, the main frame, and the trailing arm, complete with hugger. That's the hugger. That's a three-part. I mean, simply, I've not done much cleanup on any of this. That's just literally been glued together, and you can see it fits together really nicely. There's a lot more gone into this to get it to this point, but that fits in here and is designed to screw it. But again, you've got bits of shock absorber mounts, top and bottom, that are designed to be trapped as you bring the frame together and hold it, and it's all a little bit difficult to then deal with things like this kind of prep. You see in here where the filler is, that's super glue and talc. Gap on the headstock where it doesn't fit together that nicely, all of which would have shown up because that frame is in the main carbon fiber black, so with a weave on it, and all those carbon fiber elements are actually provided in the decal sheet in the kit. So with the intent of making as good a job as I could, this engineering task of replacing bits with tube, so a 3mm bit, some 3mm Albion alloys tube, and that now can be assembled like that. But that can be brought together as a completed assembly after construction, after paintwork is done. So here's the rear wheel with the brake disc holder and the chain. Now, all of that was designed to be in place here before you assembled the rear trailing arm, which just wasn't viable, in my opinion. I mean, there'll be other people looking at me and going, "You're insane," but I wanted it right. If I'm spending the kind of money that this kit costs, I want to do it right. So, what I've done is I've drilled through to make that structure, and the chain will fit into an axle, which is here. It's difficult to explain with two hands trying to look on the camera to show you what I'm doing. But there you go. So the chain is broken here. That comes through there. Goes behind the frame. Go on, just do what you're told for the first time today. There you go. And then fits thus. There's a key that I've left in place. But that you see what I mean? That chain and that's got to be in there before, you see.
Good grief.
So a bit of ingenuity required.
Yeah.
But the end result will be an improvement over what the kit would necessarily give you straight out of the box. Go on, just go there.
What is that sound?
I've no idea. We had it last week.
I think it's whatever your microphone is, Ian. I think it's where it's doing like a noise cancellation or something, and it just squelches.
Possibly. I have actually, no, don't get excited. I have actually invested in the last 48 hours in a Bluetooth mic.
Well done.
So that'll be with me next week. So, and then that comes through there eventually, and through here, and holds it. So then you end up with, you can build it, paint it, build it, assemble it, and not have to worry about it being a pain in the neck and having join lines in very visible places. So that's what I've been doing over the last couple of days, and it's enormous. I didn't quite realise how big it was, I must admit. But there you go. That's me.
Excellent, Chris. In the land of the free-ish.
Yeah. Well,
how you doing?
Okay. Comparatively speaking to other people in this country, I think I'm doing better than most. But still, stressful week. But I've been working on the special hobby Spitfire Mark 21. I got the wing on, and plenty of shims, plenty of fit issues with the bottom wing, but it's coming on. It's fitting on there. There's reasonably good engineering for what seems like a very short run kit. I think the heritage of this kit is actually extra kit, so it's not it's no spring chick shows it, but
they've done a whole load of those. I've built a couple of them. I don't remember having two. It's of its ilk, but I don't ever remember having too many problems with it, really.
Yeah, it's just sort of like if you get the bottom wing on, you should be fine. If you get it on correctly, you're gonna have some little gaps back on the upper part.
Yeah.
And then you've got to make sure you've got it on straight, because if you don't, the upper wings just won't fit. And I discovered just messing with sanding a little bit on the inner edges of those wings helped to fit quite a bit. And so it's coming right along. It's no worse than I've done lots of special hobby and sword and MPM kits, so it's certainly no worse than any of those. I really like the kit. It's really
you've got form in this area.
I've got way too much practice on my CV. It says builds horrible kits. So if I can build some of the stuff I've got in my case now, I can build this, no problem. It's just getting through the brute force part of the job. But I'm going to probably take a break on it, because the fixed canopy section, the aft fixed canopy section has a hairline crack on the tree. So it's got a stress crack. So I have to source a new part for that, and it may go on a break. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do while I'm on that break. I've got 3 projects to work on, and I've also got this little beauty here. Ooh. Smilodon Californica, or actually Smilodon fatalis. There's no such thing as Californicus anymore. Yeah, it's a 3D printed Smilodon. I think it was designed to go into a 3D printed base, which I forewent because I want to make my own base. And it's exact opposite of the Spitfire, because there's no seams. No. Just build the base and paint it. That's it.
It's the death of the hobby.
Yeah, absolutely.
The extinction of the hobby.
Yeah, I'm just going to whiz through because we've got special guests waiting in the wings. This is, I managed to get the decals on that. This is a replica of the Green Machine, which is my old Green Rover Mini, which Drew and I had many adventures in down the years, including a hilarious drive up Pollock Hill, which I showed everybody the video before the show, and absolutely hilarious. But we'll be back down there again, Drew, but I'm afraid it will be in the Binny rather than a Mini. But anyway, let's bring in our special guest for tonight, and I'm delighted to say, to talk about Revell's 2025 program, we are joined by Mr. Luke Slaney-Hewitt. How you doing, Luke?
Well, good evening, everyone. Nice to be here.
Thank you. Well, thank you for coming on.
Good to see you, Ian. Luke, Ian. Oh, good to see you, John. Ian,
it's catching, Drew. It's catching.
Good catch, yeah.
Yeah. Luke, describe your let's describe your role at Revell, shall we?
Yeah, so I'm product manager for aircraft and space, which is pretty, it's a pretty cool job title to have. It does say aircraft and space model kits, but when talking to the general public, I leave out that bit. So I'm responsible for anything with wings, rotors, or that generally blasts off past the atmosphere in the real world, not sci-fi. So the way we work at Revell is the range is split into different categories. So there's a guy who does civil and also sci-fi, and then the guy who does military vehicles and ships. So tonight we're only talking aircraft because Jonathan, I think I speak for both of us when I say that's our comfort zone. So anything else we'd be in trouble talking about. So for that role, it's all about management of the range, or my subsection of the range at least, all the way from product selection, research, all the way through to delivering it to the shelves, basically. So it's a pretty full-on job, but I can't complain too much. I'm working model kits all day, so it's not too bad.
Kind of hit the ground running with that one, didn't you?
Yeah.
So what's your history with the hobby, Luke? How did you get into modeling, or how did you actually get into it as a hobby?
Yeah, so I think it's the same as most people. It was my dad that got me into it. To be fair, I was always into aviation. He was always into trains. So I converted him by taking him to lots of air shows or forcing him to take me to loads. And he was really into his 00 layouts and things like that. And soon that led into modelling. I think the first model I can really remember, and this might age a few people, is the Frog Gannet, but in the Revell box. So that shows my youthful side, I suppose. I'm sure I'd built many a Spitfire and things before that, but it's the one that really sticks in my head. Went through modelling with my dad, normally me building it, him painting it, and eventually me starting to paint it. He couldn't release the model into my hands at first because I'd just slap on loads of acrylic paint and they'd never look very good. And then soon grew out of that, did a bit more modelling, hanging from the bedroom ceiling, and then obviously found, as I was growing up, left the hobby for a bit, went off to university, did product design at Bournemouth, and then obviously did a few CAD jobs. So my background is purely design, and soon transitioned into project management. Obviously a stint in red and now in blue. So that brings you up to date.
I was gonna say God, I've lost the thread where I was there for a second. I think we all kind of go through that thing of having our dads kind of lead us into the hobby. And my dad was pretty much the same, is that he would take projects off me and say, "Oh, these are far too complicated for you. I'll build it for you." And it's like, "Thank you, Dad." Particularly an Airfix Spitfire from 1974, I seem to remember. I just want to embarrass Luke for a second at the moment. Is also point out, you're going to hate me for this, Luke. Also point out that Luke is ridiculously younger than the four of us. Go on, Luke. Tell everybody.
What year did you say you were born in, Luke?
98.
You're actually younger than my son.
There you go. Yeah, I don't look it. I will say I look a bit older. Maybe that's the stress of the job. But
I've got models in my display case older than that.
I've got projects that I've started and haven't finished that stem from 1998.
My first experience of the Frog Gannet was in a Novo bag in 1981 that I had to send off a postal order for and wait 28 days. And I think it was from BMW models or something.
Yeah,
BMW models.
Yeah, that's great. That's right, Luke. When you were born, I was already out of the Navy 7 years.
I'm sorry, guys. I didn't want to do this to you.
No. We wanted to do it to you. This is the point.
But as long as you appreciate it's just rank jealousy, Luke.
It is absolute rank jealousy. And yeah, Frog Gannet was one of the models that my dad built for me for the model collection that got me into modeling a very long time ago. But yeah, the Frog Gannet with the little pilots' heads molded to the inside of the solid cockpit. Goodness me. Shall we, Luke? Shall we talk Revell 2025 then? Shall we? And I think this is fair to say, one of the changes you initiated was with the 32nd scale Meteor. Now, I'll let you tell the story, but it's now being touted as an F8, but that wasn't the original plan, was it?
No, so when I originally joined, it was an F3, which was going to be released. And I joined partway through, well, I say partway through the project. It had been announced a couple years before my arrival. And I questioned why F3 was chosen. And there wasn't much of an answer. Normally that's the way when you have a predecessor that's no longer there. So took it upon myself to look into other versions. And obviously in my head, the F8 FR9 is sort of the one that most people gravitate to on the Meteor front. Obviously, F3 and F4 have wartime. You have the wartime version, so you can do a diorama tipping V1s and things like that, and that's the side of it. But there's very limited in terms of schemes. So with an F8, though, that's totally different. So we soon decided to change the version. Not all me, but you know, it was one of the first things I said. Why are we doing the F3? So then got a very good designer on the case, and so we've over the last few weeks started releasing some information. I think on the screen at the moment we have pictures of the 3D printed prototype. It's a bit rough around the edges. James, who built it, did a fabulous job with the parts I supplied him, which were printed at double time. But all that was to really represent to the guys at Nuremberg that maybe don't know what a Meteor is. I know, sacrilege, but if they don't know what a Meteor is and they want to buy 500 for their shop or for their distributor, this is how big it is when it's built up, and this is what it looks like. And we've also had some CAD images sent out, not proper nice renders, but really these were just for me to check over rivet detail, etc., and make sure that we were ticking all the boxes in terms of option parts, but also you know, some of the more awkward panels that aren't on some aircraft are on others, and doing all that good stuff. That's probably the best bit, really. Checking through a CAD model and telling the designer to change everything. They hate you after it, but it's good fun.
I prefer those sort of CAD images to renders, actually, because I think it gives you more of an impression of what you're getting, if you know what I mean. I quite often I find that high resolution renders are more like beauty shots.
Yeah, I see what you mean, and having the line sort of the lines added to this really helps you see the detail a bit more. As you say, with renders you can lose it sometimes. One of the problems with doing this sort of direct from the CAD is that you can have some lines that don't feature on the plastic at all. They're more sort of curvature lines that the designer might have toggled on. But as long as you're careful. One point on this image that's currently being displayed is that the wings, when these images were done, weren't detailed. So before people say the wings aren't going to have rivets, it's just not finished at that point. So there you go. But yeah, so we've got 2 full engines in the kit, which is obviously, when you look at the one at 48th, you have to sort of match, if not do better. So we have to do at least 2 engines, and both can be displayed on the stand. We've got early canopy, late canopy, early on the screen and then late on the screen now. We've got short and wide intakes, and then narrow and long. We've got both aileron types. Struggling for differences now, but if there's an option part, we've done it essentially. And then obviously open gun bays and exposed sort of front nose there, which makes it a nightmare for putting weight into. So we've had to get a bit creative with our weight compartments. I think Ian saw the model at Bolton that shows some of how we've done that. It can be done. Yeah, so it can be done. And the prototype that we've done is proof of that. Obviously, we'll have to just fine tune the weight we're putting in, because the 3D print is heavier, so the weight we need is slightly different, but it can be done, which is all we need. And then the FR9 on the front there, you'll see with molded cameras. To be nerdy, we've tried to give every option we can with this, but we've had to draw a line at the FR9 nose. There were 2 sets of cameras that were used. I think it was the G24, and then they replaced with the F95s. And the G24s were quite big, so you could only sort of fit one on the ground ahead of time, facing either left or right or port starboard. And then when they moved to the F95, you could have all 3, both sides and a forward facing. So we've represented that. So yeah, bit nerdy, but there you go. Thought people might appreciate that. We've even gone to the level of the pilot's head. We'll have 2 options. You'll have one with a leather skull cap, as on early aircraft or early pilots, and then Mark 1A bone dome with the sort of solid helmet with the visor. So we're trying to cater for everyone.
I got to say, Luke, from that SLA, the 3D printed one, I absolutely love the fact that you've got the pilot there in the seat. That just looks absolutely bang on, doesn't it? It looks like he's actually kind of like part of the seat rather than
like he's strapped in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Goodness me, that. And I got to say, me personally, yeah, the FR9s are the ones I like, especially the ones in the. Is it Drew?
Light slate grey and medium sea grey.
That's it. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's a fabulous. I should know that because we did that on the one on the Airfix kit, and we've also got the fuel tank under there as well. I don't know, chaps. I think this looks absolutely stellar. It really does.
As I'm prone to saying at the moment with various projects, I don't build 32nd, and you have my attention.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Quick question, Luke. Will it have the things like the ADF antenna for Australian options?
Yes, yeah, it will. So we're going to cater for Australian, Korean War. The only exception for that is we're at the moment not considering putting in the double row of rockets. We were just going to do the single row, which I believe still operated in Australia. They weren't always carrying double. And we've got quite a few different aerial options as well. So you've got the Rebecca aerials for later aircraft, the standard rod for sort of earlier ones as well. We've had a few very nice people helping us out with some of the differences. So if they're listening, thank you very much. So we're pretty much done with the CAD of this now. The screenshots on the screen are a couple of weeks ago they were taken, so we've moved it on a little bit, especially the wings. Lots of crawling underneath aircraft over the last couple of months to make sure we've got it right. There's a few bits where just comes to mind that we had to compromise just up towards the front on the underside, where essentially we're running out of draft, so we can't put much detail. There's a single panel that I know we're missing, but we have to draw the line somewhere. Someone might have to scribe one tiny little panel. So yeah, it's been going really well. We've tried to tick off all the options. If people think we're going to miss something, let us know. I'll try and tell the designer to add more parts, but he's getting a bit conscious. We're pushing 400 at the moment, so
wow.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm really taken with it. I think it looks beautiful. I really do.
Any idea on schemes at the moment, Luke? I know that's probably a commercially sensitive question, but I mean, I can imagine there are going to be multiple boxings of this as well down the years.
Yeah, so the plan for this one, I'm not sure I've discussed this anywhere really, but it's going to start breaking cover soon, is to do what we call a launch edition at first. So it will be limited in number, and the basic idea is that we see so often nowadays people saying, well, I love the kit, but I won't buy it till the aftermarket's available. And so the idea is that it basically comes as a big bundle, like some other manufacturers. So I think for this one, I might be wrong. It's €119, but the plan it's obviously the full kit, F8, FR9, 4 marking options is the hope. So the plan would be RAF F8, early and late, FR9. So the FR9 might fall into the 2 RAF schemes, if I'm honest. And I've seen Dave wants 20 FR9 options there, but sorry, might have to disappoint for this one. So we'll do an F8 RAF, we'll do an FR9 RAF, we'll probably do a Korean War Australian, and then we're looking at one from the continent. I've had a Belgian guy talking to me today about sending me Belgian schemes that we could include, if not Netherlands is the other option. So those are the 4 options we're looking at. I mean, the specifics aren't nailed down yet. I've got a while. Tooling's just about to start, so we've got a few months.
I mean, I think in terms of paint schemes, generally speaking, the most stereotypical ones are stereotypical for a reason, and that's because they're popular. So if you're doing an Australian Korean War one, why wouldn't you do Hailstorm?
Yeah.
It's the one that everybody knows from Korea. So I never like to criticize color scheme choices, because first off, the aftermarket is going to just swamp us with options, and second of all, the most obvious options are obvious for a reason.
Got a question here from Hobby Time, which I think almost kind of reinforces what you're saying there, Drew. Is how about a U-16 drone with wingtip pods and longer nose? To be honest with you, Hobby Time, I think that's why we have an aftermarket sector.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll break out the Space Mouse and
Mr. Roy Sutherland from across the water says, having studied the Meteor quite extensively, I have to say Revell has done an amazing job capturing the cockpit tub and the ammunition bay behind the seat. No one has ever gotten this really right before. There we go. Can't wait for this amazing kit, says Roy. So,
and there's an ammunition box.
That's how you get it right. It's just buy one off eBay and gives you the information you need.
Yeah,
this will go to a museum afterwards. I will donate it, so it's not just going to sit on my desk this whole time.
I think James Ray there saying Argentina. James, I think Argentina only used the Mark IV, so they used Meteor 4, not the F8. So,
and Yoav has just said, "Will you include underwing rockets?" I think Luke just answered that, didn't you, Luke?
Yeah, we'll have
single
8
row.
in the kit. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely right. Well, I'm suffice to say, I'm echoing what Drew said there. 30-second scale isn't my thing, but I'm willing to make an exception. Ian, Chris, any comments there?
I saw obviously
it's spectacular to see all the effort going into making it really great. I get the feeling sometimes model companies go out and they look at an airplane once, they go back, they tool up the kit and that's it. Whereas clearly, Luke, your team has been going over and over the Meteor and refining and refining and refining to get it exactly right, which is, it's kind of what modelers demand these days, right? It's not like back in the days where Frog was cranking out a kit every 2 weeks.
My mileage expenses can attest to me visiting lots of different Meteor airframes just to make sure we got it right. I mean, off the top of my head, we scanned at least 3 F8, FR9 airframes, 3D scanned them and visited more. So, we went the extra mile, even scanning the prone Meteor. Don't get excited, we're not doing the prone Meteor nose, but that is why an aftermarket exists. But it was a good example of some of the early features. It still has the early canopy and canopy rail.
Yeah, because once you get behind that nose, it's a Meteor.
Yeah, exactly. And it was broken into sections when we visited it, which was the ideal time to visit a Meteor.
Yeah.
Sorry, how recently was that, Luke?
It was in the conservation centre at Cosford, being moved in the next weeks to Newark. So I can't remember the exact month, but that gives you a time frame there.
Cosford, there's so many things I could say about that aircraft in Cosford that would be not repeatable in polite company. Parked in the open last time I saw it, which is an absolute disgrace. But there you go.
Under shelter at Newark, though, which is the good thing.
Yeah, which is actually a lot nearer me, so I'll be happy.
We have another Revell 30-second scale aircraft release lined up, and again falls into a very similar kind of period and interest category, and it's going to be a 30-second scale 2-seat Hunter T.7/T7A based on the 30-second scale FGA6/FGA9, F6 FGA9. As the thing says there, Hawker Hunter T7, a 27-year wait. Indeed, I built
that kit was only released 3 years ago.
Exactly. I built the Revell FGA9 when it came out. I was asked to build it by Mr. Andrew Hills of Antics in that there Bristol, and I built that in, ready folks, 1998. You may have heard of that year, Luke.
Sorry.
What a great choice. The 2-seat Hunters, there's so many options out there for them that as far as color schemes go.
I think it's a more attractive aeroplane as well.
I agree.
It's got a very different character to it. It's a little less generic looking.
We've got some kind of CAD in progress images here, and also one from a 3D scan as well. And we also have some images here of the color schemes, and again, people will probably grumble that their favorite color scheme isn't in there. Goodness me, this is why we have an aftermarket, ladies and gents. Of the 3 schemes, I've got to say I do like those camo ones with the small roundels, but my heart is... Sorry, Drew.
Wraparound is best on anything.
Yeah. But my heart really does go out to that Dutch one. That just looks beautiful.
Luke.
Yes.
What's the chances of you doing the same thing with the 72nd scale kit, though? Is that
Well, so the unique thing about the 32nd one is the way it was broken down.
Was it broken down for a twin-seater?
Yeah, so back in the day, I believe there was a bit of an issue with. So it's based on the Echelon kit, or this is what I've been told. Obviously, it's a bit before my time, guys. I'm sorry to reiterate that, but it's very much the same as the Echelon kit. And I think there was discussions between Echelon and Revell in the courtroom at some point. But anyway, so it was broken down to match that. And the reason that it was broken down with the fuselage is because the Echelon kit did single-seater and two-seater. So they just did the same, but I'm not entirely sure Hunter went down as well as they had hoped, or in the numbers they had hoped. So the idea of doing a two-seater, revisiting and tooling the two-seater part, went by the wayside essentially. Whereas that kit's now sort of matured a bit, and it's a bit of a fan favourite. I know you could pick them up quite cheap not so long ago, and people were saying, where is the 32nd TSR2? Oh my goodness, that would be a big thing. Where is the 32nd Hunter T7? And so it felt like an easy thing for me to do, come in and start this as a project. Obviously, for us as a brand, it's cheaper because we're only tooling the nose and the tail cone, essentially, as the two different parts. It's a bit of a fan favourite, the Hunter. I think people say it's the most beautiful post-war aircraft. I agree with that. And then when we get to schemes, we try and pick 3 very different schemes. From a simplistic view, if you have that on the box, you want each one to look very different. You don't want the difference to be a slightly bigger roundel or a different serial. To the layman, you want them to be very different in terms of options. Obviously, the Dutch aircraft we do because we have a big presence on the continent. XL591, the wraparound, is actually chosen because that was the aircraft we 3D scanned. So it was a bit of a favour towards Gatwick Aviation Museum. A thank you, I should say. And then the black one is because we wanted an aerobatic team. Now, with the aerobatic team, we have since decided that we should ask whether people want the black arrows or the blue diamonds. So if your viewers can let us know.
Somebody's already said blue diamonds.
Yes, I saw that. So, if people want to let us know, we're open to comments. So,
I'm going to say blue diamonds as well, because I do believe Matchbox did a blue diamonds boxing of their lumpy Hunter that they did.
Yeah.
It was the
blue
late
diamond? Was it 19 or 92 squadron?
19 black aircraft.
I think it was 92, wasn't it?
Yes, possibly.
Yeah. So it's got the 92 squadron marking. So yes, blue diamonds.
Yeah. No, I've just found an image of it. It was a later boxing. Welcome to how we do things on the fly on this show, Luke. And
I'm trying to remember the reason.
Well, 92 squadron is my second favourite RAF squadron. So.
Was the wraparound on the Hunter not something to do with the Buccaneers?
Yeah, when the Buccaneers were out of service because of the fatigue cracks, they were flying Hunter F6s and T7s for a while. So the few of them came through with wraparound camouflage in 1980.
So when Luke
pilot's current. Just keeping.
So when Luke does the 32nd scale Buccaneer to accompany this, of course, we can have the pair then, can't we? Side by side.
This was one of the things at Telford, because we were talking about the schemes there. So the wraparound, those aircraft we use as trainers as well for Buccaneer aircrew. So actually, one side of the instrument panel reflected Buccaneer instruments. So you had a Hunter panel on one side and a sort of Buccaneer mock on the other. So we do plan to cater for that as well. So one of the strange things with designing the Hunter is that you're trying to match the 3D scan as much as possible, and also trying to match the kit. And because it's designed before 3D scanning and everything, there are differences. And you either shrink the nose to fit the kit, or you basically have to meet in the middle somewhere to compromise. Obviously, it has to fit perfectly to the fuselage, but also you're trying to get the proportions right. So that's where we got a bit stuck. Luckily, we're working through that at the moment. But you also have to match the age of the kit as well. So there's no point sticking a brand new nose on to the quality of some of the modern toolings with the stuff behind it being from 98. So you sort of, again, have to meet that level of quality. Otherwise, you've got two very different parts of the kit, and you may as well be a conversion set at that point. So we'll try and improve where we can. Obviously, we are in 2025 now, so we can take advantage of some of the tooling advancements and design advancements, but we do have to keep an eye on the original kit as well.
Mm-hmm. I've got. Sorry, I'm going back to that again. Yeah, I love that Dutch one. Drew, out of all those schemes, which one grabs your eye?
Oh, the wraparound.
Okay,
it's not even close.
Fair enough. Right. Okay. The next one we've got is slightly more recent, and it's another 32nd scale kit, but this is the conversion of the Hurricane into a C Hurricane Mk.IIc. And as you can see, sorry, that wasn't a pun, but as you can observe, is you've got 3 schemes in there. So we've got extra dark sea grey, dark slate grey, and sky. We've got that fabulous one in the white scheme with the temperate sea scheme on the nose, and then we have GAMAU in overall blue with gold trim. So, Luke, what was the thinking behind this kit then?
Well, before anyone points out, the last scheme isn't the Sea Hurricane.
No.
Any smart Alex out there, I'm beating you to it. We know that, but unfortunately putting Hawker Hurricane Mk.IIc / Sea Hurricane Mk.IIc becomes a bit long on the box. So the thought behind this is that most of the Sea Hurricane parts, I think all of them, were already in the original boxing. The difference here is the wings. So we've included the C wings rather than the B wings. And they definitely weren't in the kit because what we had to do was essentially change the insert for the tools. So we've swapped that over. So there was a model at Nuremberg that essentially had all the new parts painted in red and all the rest in grey, just to illustrate to those that aren't in the know the major differences. Apart from that, it's a very similar kit to the previous one. But obviously you can do it in naval schemes. So we have 2 naval schemes, and then my personal favourite is the racing scheme, the last of the many. So that flies with the BBMF at the moment, so it's still going. It didn't have cannons fitted, so you have to cut those off, but it was a C-wing, so it had all the bulges and various bits. And civil schemes seem to go down really, really well with these. They're a bit different, I suppose, is the key there.
King's Cup racer, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. It went around the circuit a bit and did a few different things in that scheme.
It's very striking, isn't it? Dark blue and gold.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely stands out. One thing we're struggling for, so again, appealing to viewers and listeners, if you have any info on the stenciling and the markings, please do let us know if you've got any decent photos. They're all a bit grainy from that era, so. And then obviously 2 navalised versions. There are more versions in the kit, just to start the rumour mill working. So I'm sure we'll see those in the coming years as well.
Again, 32nd scale isn't my thing, but that white one, I've always wanted to build that, and yeah, we actually did it as an Airfix release. Oh goodness me, that 72nd scale Airfix Mk.IIc that came out very early in the Hornby tenure. So yeah, I like the scheme, and
Revell have also released it in 72nd scale.
Who? Sorry,
Revell have also released it in 72nd.
Yes, they have. Yeah, in their little Sea Hurricane kit, and also the Gerald Scarborough book, the Airfix Patrick Stevens book on modelling the 24 scale Hurricane. He does a conversion in that into that scheme, which is where as a teenager I fell in love with that scheme. I just think it's absolutely fabulous. So,
yes, Ethan.
I might have to have a think about that. Right, the next one. I'm keeping an eye on the time here. Next we have, Dun, 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 dun. Luke, what are we looking at here?
So the SLS, obviously there'll now be 2 on the market, but we're a lot further behind than the other one. This is early CAD renders of the SLS. We're hoping that Chris's country doesn't cancel it before it goes to the moon.
No. I'm sure somebody's got their finger in the till for this one. That's the ear of the president. So I think it's going to be okay.
Yeah, good. Well, this is a very early picture of the CAD. There are a lot of changes to happen to this, if I'm being honest. But we're hoping after Chinese New Year, because everyone's off over there at the moment, we'll get some changes made and probably into tooling by February and out this year, but probably late this year. I mean, it's a launch pad model, so you don't have the Orion capsule. At 144, it's just way too small generally as well. Maybe we go up to 72nd at some point, but I'll need a new mortgage if I'm going to build it. So, as I say, lots of changes to happen. There'll be a stand in the kit as well. But watch this space, and we'll start bringing more developments out, a bit like the Meteor, start leaking it out as they come along, as we add more detail. One of the biggest things I'm not happy with is the central section just above the main core. Is the sort of step up there is too large. It's very subtle on the real aircraft. So at 144, ours is far too large at the moment. So I'm trawling through lots of images. Obviously, NASA don't really want to give you the CAD to their brand new rocket. So you're reliant on the old method somewhat and using your eye to get a lot of the shapes and detail. Luckily, you can use a lot of the fact sheets that NASA bring out, which have rough dimensions. But at 144, they're good enough for what we're doing. So it's exciting. As I say, space is part of my title. So
I'm really glad to see. I think space appears to be coming back. I mean, we've got 2 SLSs. Zvezda are doing something as well, aren't they, this year in 144?
They've done a new Soyuz Vostok.
So I'm hoping that space is making a comeback. Because it's just YouTube is just so full of space-based launches and all this kind of stuff. It just becomes a really, really interesting thing to follow.
It's really interesting, Mitch. If over here in the United States, there are a lot of people who are doing different launch vehicles as 3D printed models, and there's a clear niche there and a clear pent-up demand for these things. And this is an obvious one to start with, right? This is what will be the next generation's Saturn V.
Exactly. The idea that I think it's been pushed now, but at September this year, they were due to orbit the moon. I think it's March, maybe in 26. And then the following September, again, probably pushed back as a result, they land on the moon for the first time since the 70s. So, really exciting. And, a lot of people of my generation and the generation before have never seen man on the moon. So it is the start of that. It's not even just the moon. It's the idea there might be a lunar space station soon. That's the idea anyway. And then, go colonizing, or at least creating a moon base, and then maybe a Mars base. So, in the next couple generations.
And then there'll be a big nuclear explosion and the moon will get blown off.
Exactly.
Goodbye, Martin Landau. Goodbye.
It all ends badly. It all ends badly.
I'm just going to say, actually, goodness me, I can remember, this is where we need the wibbly wobbly effect, StreamYard, is I can remember watching some of the BBC's lunar coverage because I was massively into space as a kid. And I just remember them playing also Sprach Zarathustra, because that was obviously coming off the back of 2001: A Space Odyssey. But I always knew it as the Apollo music. And I'm trying to think what missions I would have caught on television at the time. This would have been about, would have been towards the end of the original kind of moon shots.
Sorry, John, what year were you born?
67.
So you're about the same age as me. I have a vague recollection of 15 and 16.
Yeah.
My first conscious memory is probably Apollo 12. I thought it was Apollo 11. It's probably Apollo 12 because I was born the same year as Jonathan. But my grandfather was the lead materials engineer for the ablative shield for Gemini and Apollo. So we would sit and watch these things with him, and he would sweat the entire time because he knew everything that could go wrong. So my poor grandfather, who, you know, I distinctly remember how excited I was and how freaked out he was about the ascent stage. If it doesn't fire, we're dead. That kind of thing. So
Adam says Apollo 17 was 1972. Dave Fleming also says Apollo 17 is the one that I recall. So it probably was Apollo 17. But do you know what? I've never grown out of all that that space stuff.
I mean, I'll be time there saying a new tool space shuttle would be good. In 144th scale, all the existing toolings are like 45 years old now.
Yeah.
It would a new 144 scale shuttle stack to modern standards would be. I'm not going to say a license to print money because I hate that expression, but I think the time is ripe for.
Do you know what, Drew? I've pretty much I may be wrong on this one, but all the existing 144 scale space shuttle kits, I do think predate the actual launch.
Yeah, just going to say every single one of them is based on Enterprise.
Yeah.
And in seeing my friends' efforts to build them, they've all been run so many times that they are not really great to build anymore. They're pretty beat up.
No, they're all beaten up tools. Let's say 45 years old. The time is right, especially with modern CAD techniques.
Yeah, Adam Cooper has just reminded me. Yeah, Dragon did a 144 scale one fairly recently. Yeah, Russell Taylor has as well. John Huston has made a very good point, though. If we're going to have a new 144 scale space shuttle to scale Scriber details, and yes,
we've all been following the multi-year
build.
He's still beautiful.
He's otherworldly, John, isn't he?
He's going to lap NASA on that one. It's going to take longer for him to get that model bit. Not a criticism, but it's beautiful, the care and the attention to detail he's putting into that. It's just absolutely phenomenal. And Russell Taylor
talks about it also casually.
Yeah, I know.
About all of his stuff he does. He talks about it so casually, like we know it's completely beyond us mere mortals.
Yeah. Russell Taylor talking about the Dragon 44 scale shuttle says, but it's not a great kit. So, and Russell also says an on-orbit model of Skylab would be nice. I agree with that. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Right, the next one, because we've got about 5 minutes left, and we don't want to keep Luke past his bedtime. Sorry, Luke, I didn't mean that.
No.
At my age, at your age, guys,
I meant that. I meant that in the sense that Luke has got
John,
to go.
John,
to
stop
tomorrow.
digging. Stop digging. I know. Move on.
The next, I'll send him a nice box at Christmas. 72nd scale, we've got new parts for the F-15E Mud-Hen, and this is making it into an F-15C. And I know this is probably right up your street, Drew, because as I said to Luke when we were prepping tonight, I've never built an F-15 in any flavor whatsoever. So I've got kits up in the attic, but this, especially with these schemes, I do like that aggressor one in that kind of like Ferris heater scheme. And I do, and as I think Luke said, that the other scheme is a 1991 Gulf War scheme. Is that right, Luke?
Yeah, Gulf Spirit. So you have to put one in, really, and it's probably one of the more famous American F-15Cs that flew in the war. So I mean, the aggressor squadron though was picked purely because it's very pretty and I love it. Is that a valid reason?
Yep, absolutely. That does go back to one of the magazine articles I remember reading in Airfix magazine a very long time ago, and it was an article about the Ferris schemes, and that stuck with me. And I just always wanted to kind of tackle one of those schemes. But yeah, here we have the here we have some, well, I'm assuming are CAD renders, and we've got uncovered exhausts, which look rather nice. And are they AMRAMs there, Drew?
No, they're Sparrows.
Sparrows. So I'm sat too far away from the screen here. You've built the Revell mud hen, haven't you, Drew?
No, I've had it, but I haven't built it.
Oh, okay.
The nearest I've got is this one at the moment. So,
oh, sorry. Show us that one again.
that's another mud hen that's on the Korean one.
Which kit is that?
That's the Academy kit.
Oh, right. Okay.
But no, it's. I mean, clearly the F-15E was broken down to allow for this to arrive. One of my favourite things about this kit is it hasn't got a separate air brake, which you so rarely see deployed, and yet every kit has it, and it's just a pain dans la derrière, as John would say.
Pain dans la derrière. Indeed.
Yeah. So one of my favourite things about the Revell 72nd scale new tool is that there's no separate air brake. It's just a really nice thing. I think I'm right in saying the Eglin aircraft is possibly Steve Tate's aircraft, which was one of the aircraft got the first kill of the Gulf War, first air-to-air kill of the Gulf War. Yep. So yeah, a pretty famous Eagle amongst us Eagle files, I should say. I would have liked to have seen a Grim Reaper's a Lakenheath based aircraft, but I get that the aggressor scheme is pretty, so I'll give Luke a pass.
Yeah, we already done Lakenheath with the F-35, so we have to spread around the love for the different bases. You see.
No, you don't. You've spread everything to Lakenheath. There are boys. There are lads.
Yeah, was that part of the image package you sent me, Luke? The F-35A, because I haven't got anything here.
Probably in January to April. That folder there. It will be in that.
So, Luke, are we happy to show this?
The F-35.
Yeah. Because I mean, Luke sent me an early set of test shots a while ago. You'll have to forgive the paint tests and stuff, Luke, but this is one that's just been literally put together from the box with no filling or sanding or anything, just to see how it went together. So this is the upcoming Revell F-35. I think it's probably been a bit more refined since then. This hasn't it, Luke?
A little bit, not a whole lot. I mean, we were towards the end of design, but we tried to include as much as we could in the change.
I have to say, it builds. It went together without any trouble whatsoever. It's a fine. I like the way the interior has been done on it, and it's going to be a real value for money package. Like I say, I have to forgive. I've been using it to run some paint tests for the F-35C to get that weathering effect on the F-35Cs, which is why it looks so rusty and stuff. But hopefully people can see the basically it's just a pretty nice quality kit. It's going to be really good value for money. And am I right? You're going to send me a kit?
Yes, yeah. You'll get one when I've run out of test shots because I had to send.
It's not a problem because I know I'm not writing for magazines or anything, so it's that they'll all go for magazines first. But it's just I built this. When did I build this, Luke? Middle of November, end of November?
Yeah, straight after Telford, really.
Yeah, straight after Telford, really. So, it's I'm suitably impressed with it, and I think it's going to be a value for money proposition, and it's going to have Luftwaffe markings, isn't it? So
which are a bit we won't say made up. They're based on the demonstrator. Yes, yeah. So they're based on the markings that were on display at ILA Berlin, which is their Farnborough essentially.
Yeah.
So they've ordered a whole load of them, and so Lockheed Martin pushed over a demonstrator to them or a mock-up, and so it's based on that. And then when they unveil the finished markings, I don't expect it to change massively. I mean, there's not a whole load of variation in F-35 A
I mean,
markings.
the fins don't do the fins aren't big on huge amounts of markings variations.
Yeah.
You know, I could see a boxing coming down the road where you could do Polish, Finnish, you know, those sorts of options in it as well.
Tell you what we'll do.
Flying it now as well. So
I'll tell you what we'll do. Well, Luke, if you want to come on a future show, we'll do one where we can talk about the F-35A kit, and then we can perhaps go into it with a bit more detail. And Drew, I'll commend you there. First class shilling there to get a free kit there. Absolutely.
You can only ask, can't you?
I hope the ladies and gentlemen watching tonight, that was an absolutely textbook lesson there from Drew. That's how it's done. So
you assume I haven't been working on the Hunter and the Meteor. Working on it. You know, I could really do with being a part of this.
Who do I need to talk to about the car range?
Right, last one for tonight, and it is another boxing of the Beaufighter. Again, this is almost channeling Matchbox. This is it's the 48 scale Bristol Beaufighter Mark 6 with the thimble nose. I love this version for the aforementioned Matchbox connotations. I'm just trying to think. Drew, have you got one of these kits, or have you built one of these kits?
It's one that kind of slipped by me, which is odd because I love the Beaufighter. So I'm certainly interested in this because I like the brutish look of the thimble-nosed aircraft.
Yeah.
Is it going to have the extended tail as well, Luke? The tail fin?
I'm not entirely sure, Drew, if I'm honest. I can't quite remember this one.
Right.
I did it a while ago. All I can say is, so you'll see there's not two marking options on there at the moment. That's just because we're still deciding them. But preliminary markings will be a North African aircraft and then a Australian aircraft. That's the only info I've got on my notes.
I think you have to be careful with that, Luke, because I'm not sure the Australians flew thimble-nosed aircraft.
No, so there's also in the kit they've got the shorter nose standard.
Right.
Don't go to Tamiya. It's really a Mark 6, but it's a 21 wing.
Yeah. No, it'd be a 5 probably for that one. I mean, the boxing will be 5 and 6 generally. So we've got the options for sort of all the options in the kit really for the later ones in there. The reason we didn't put new parts on this one is because it pretty much utilizes parts that have already been out there, but in a different way. So that's always a strange one, whether you, from a marketing perspective, plaster new parts over it, and then people go, "Well, I've seen this part in, the 1 boxing, and then this one in the 10 boxing, etc." So to avoid any controversy, we avoided doing that. But essentially, it's just a re-release. Using some different parts to make the 6 and the 5.
And we have a question. We're going to have to wrap it up here, I'm afraid, chaps. We've got a question here from Russell Taylor. He says, "What's up with the new tool 109E Revell announced at Nuremberg?"
All I can say is I can't comment on that right now. If I'm honest, I can't comment on it. So there's another question, and I will just change the subject very quickly. There's someone just asked about the boxings. I think it was Jim.
Yes.
Jim Alticott. There we go.
Yeah. About
what we'll do with the boxings. Oh, Jonathan, I thought you were lifting your cat up then, but it just
no. He's he's just interfering.
So I mean, on the boxings, I assume Jim's talking about the side opening boxes.
There we go.
Yeah, so we are changing to top opening, which is one of the biggest complaints we have, or bits of feedback that we have, and it's something that I was aware of when I came over. So we won't be going down the lid and tray route, which for me was the perfect way of going. We've sort of met in the middle and gone with a top opening flap. So the benefits of that are obviously access. So putting stuff into a side opening box is just tricky, especially with bigger kits. Things ping off, they want to catch onto the box. Yeah, it's a struggle. So top opening allows you to do that and obviously use it as a bit of a storage whilst you're making. But also the strength of the box is increased. So due to the
that's what we need is the strength is the issue really, because if it's in even a reasonably small pile, traditionally the Revell boxes will be the first ones that give under the strain.
Yeah.
I will make the observation that the old Revell end opening boxes were not cat proof, and I know that from not Derpy, it was another one of my cats, decided to lay on one day, and that was it. The box was absolutely mullered.
Yeah, so it will be a flap box that sort of hinges at the back, and we're also increasing the sort of weight or the thickness of the card used. So we're going to town to make sure that we can actually have boxes that hold up under the stash's weight, shall we say? So and that's a direct.
It's a real issue.
Yeah, it's a direct response to people's feedback from when I joined all the way through to now. So that will start filtering in. Obviously, we can't make an overnight change, but on products ordered from now on, when we work on sort of a 3-month lead time generally. So after the first quarter of the year, you'll start to see these new boxes filtering.
We got a comment here from Hobby Time who says, "Like to thank Luke for the B52 and X1 and 72nd scale. Been waiting 40 years to build that kit." I think he means X15. Yeah, B52 and X15. Been waiting 40 years to build that kit. Right. I'm afraid any other business. Sorry, Derpy. I know you didn't like that bell, but yeah, any other business. Gents.
Rob Suto's made the best comment of the night on this, because he's pointing out that the decal designer at Revell will be miffed at the lack of an anniversary scheme for the F-35s, because it's a traditional, isn't it? Every time you get a new Revell fast jet, there's an anniversary scheme on it. And it always
I'm sure somebody will come up with one for an F-35 at some stage. Right, gents, any other business?
Not from me.
Nope.
Okay.
I sent you over a picture the other day of a pre-painted bike kit from Magic Factory, whatever they're called. I just found out that's going to retail around the £60 mark.
Okay.
It's a 9th scale motorbike. That's ridiculous. But there you go.
Good or bad?
Cheap as chips.
Oh, right. Okay.
Okay.
Considering that some of the Tamiya 12 scale bikes are retailing not far below that.
Mike Williams says, well, the future is looking rosy for Revell. And there we go. Luke, we would love to have you on a future show at some stage to cover, because unfortunately we're limited to 60 minutes and we've gone to 70 at the moment. Cover some of the other stuff from the Revell 2025 range and stuff like the F-35A.
When you can talk about it.
Yes.
Well, and also some of the other reissues as well. So if you're willing to come on, we are more than happy to have you back on the show.
Yep, glad to be back anytime. So yeah, just let me know. As and when I have developments, I'll let you know and maybe bring them on the show to show them off.
Fantastic.
First class. Well, a big thank you to our special guest tonight, Mr. Luke Slaney-Hewitt, for coming on and being, I think we would all agree, chaps, just being absolutely splendid company.
Absolutely.
And,
Yes.
Thank you.
There we go. We're embarrassing you now, Luke. We'll be back this time next week, and I am going to say, in the interest of balance, we will be having Matt from Airfix on one of our upcoming shows to talk about Airfix's 2025 range. So, keeping everybody happy here. On that note, just to say thank you for watching. We'll see you very, very soon. So from us all, thank you very much. And to Luke, thank you very much. And we'll see you at the next Sunday service. So behave yourselves, everybody. Bye for now.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.